In 2005, the Japan Football Association did something no other nation had ever done. They published Japan's Way, a national football philosophy, not a vision statement, not a motivational slogan, a documented roadmap working towards a single goal: win the World Cup by 2050. It wasn't hope, it was a plan. 21 years into the 45-year plan, Japan are no longer dreaming, they are executing, step by step, tournament by tournament. Every result is a checkpoint, every development is measurable progress. This is the story of how Japan's way turned a vision into reality, and how the 2026 World Cup is the next critical milestone on the road to 2050. Welcome back to the World Cup Chronicles. Step 1. Profiling the champions. When Japan's Way was first published in 2005, the JFA started with research. They profiled the World Cup winning nations: Brazil, Germany, Spain, France, Argentina, and identified the common characteristics: national identity. Every champion had a unique style of football based on national philosophy. They had competitive domestic leagues with top competitions that forged world-class players. They had youth development systems. Strong national teams were built on elite youth programs. Coach education. They had both quantity and quality of licensed coaches who could teach the joy of football. Diversity and unity. Nations that embraced diversity, but also building a sense of shared purpose. Japan studied these nations and asked themselves, what do we need to do to become like them? And that answer became Japan's Way. Step 2. Building a football culture. The document states clearly that winning the World Cup is bringing joy to everyone through football. But Japan had a problem, because football was not embedded into daily life. The pathway to becoming a football player was narrow, but there was no synergy between competitive football and football for well-being. The two pyramids of grassroots and elite football were separate, and Japan's Way demanded that they be interlinked. So Japan reformed youth competitions. The goal was to create an environment where anybody could enjoy football, both grassroots, elite, amateur or professional, lifelong sport and competitive football, all feeding into one football family. By 2010, Japan reached the round of 16 at the World Cup. They lost on penalties to Paraguay. It was progress, but it was not enough. The culture was being built, but the elite pathway needed refinement. Step 3. Defining the ideal player. What does an ideal Japanese player look like? And Japan profiled themselves honestly. The modern game had changed, with full intensity running had increased. The ball was in play more than ever before. Speed, agility, and accelerations were now essential. But Japan also identified their own characteristics and turned them into strengths. Japanese players were technical, intelligent, and disciplined. They could read the game and they worked collectively. And the plan was clear: send players to Europe to learn the game, and specifically to Germany. The relationship with German football started in the 1960s, when Japan trained in Germany ahead of the Olympics. In 1977, Yasuhiko Okidera became the first Japanese player in the Bundesliga, joining Köln and winning the league title in his first ever season. He played 234 matches over 9 years, proving that Japanese players could thrive in Europe's most tactical leagues. Japan's Way depended on that partnership. By the early 2010s, a wave of Japanese talents arrived in Germany. Shinji Kagawa joined Dortmund in 2010 and won back-to-back Bundesliga titles. Makoto Asebe won the league with Wolfsburg. Shinji Ogasaki became the all-time leading Japanese scorer in the Bundesliga. And by 2018, Japan arrived at the World Cup in Russia with a squad full of European hardened players. And in the round of 16, they came this close. Japan was leading Belgium 2-0, but Belgium scored twice and they lost 3-2. They were heading for the quarterfinals. It was devastating, but it was also proof that Japan were competitive, and that Japan's way was working. Step 4. Creating a play vision. This was a defined style of play that every Japanese team would be able to follow. And that vision had 6 core principles. Every action is supposed to regain the ball or score a goal. Overwhelmingly fast transition. Immediately regain control of the ball, and as soon as they get it, score a goal. Creativity and hard work. Every player in the squad has to be both creative and hard working. Quick problem solving. The ball is the most important. Whenever attacking or defending, controlling the ball is essential. Ability to play successfully in any system. Understanding the fundamentals of football would allow you to play in any position, style or tactic. Japan's way's play vision for attack was direct play, maintaining balance and to score quick goals, and regaining the ball as fast as possible. But all of this was not just theory, it was a national standard. Every youth coach, every J-League academy, every national team all followed the same play vision. And by 2022, that vision was ready to be tested. In Qatar, Japan came up against Germany, and they had 8 players in that squad that played in the Bundesliga. Germany took the lead, and they controlled the match. But then in the second half, Japan unleashed the play vision. Fast transitions, overwhelming speed, creativity and hard work. Both goal scorers playing in the Bundesliga, and Japan beat Germany using their own system. And 4 days later, they did it again. Japan came from behind to beat Spain 2-1, and they topped the group ahead of both Germany and Spain. The play vision had worked, but Japan still went out in the round of 16. They lost on penalties against Croatia, and this was the 4th time they reached the knockout stages, but also the 4th time they failed to reach the quarterfinals. The plan was slowly progressing, but it wasn't complete. Step 5. Youth development through key stages. They divided player development into 4 key stages. The first stage was start, between the age of 5 and 8. And here, football was supposed to be introduced, but only for fun. No pressure, just joy. The second stage was growth, between the age of 9 and 12. This was supposed to be fun, but serious fun, with small-sided games tailored to physical development. The third stage was a challenge between age 14 and 17, with tactical education, physical development, and individual development plans for elite players. And the 4th and last stage was maturity, as soon as you reached 18 and above. And this was professional football. Elite youth development with specializations depending on each player. This systematic approach ensured that by the time a player reached the senior team, they had been molded by the same philosophy for a decade. And every elite player had an individualized roadmap on their skills, strengths, and weaknesses. And action plans were created to track their development. Step 6. The future of physical fitness. Is the physical fitness of Japan's football weak? And they found that the answer was yes. We will conquer the world in physical fitness to conquer the world of football. Japan introduced tailored physical programs for each individual player. But this was not just generic gym work. It was individualized training based on body type, position, and stages of development. The goal was to turn physical preparations into science. The motto became going from I'm playing football to stay healthy to I stay healthy to play football. Training, diet, sleep, and self-conditioning all became part of the player development process. Step 7. Developing world-class coaches. To further develop world-class Asian coaches, Japan already had a strong coaching licensing system, launched in the 1970s along with the J-League. And the goal was to develop coaches who cherished the opportunity to learn. Japan began to export coaches all across Asia to share experiences and learn from each other. Step 8. Building a belief. After Qatar, Japan did not celebrate. They analyzed, they learned, and they kept on building. Under current manager Hajime Moriyasu, one of the only 7 coaches from the 2020 World Cup, Japan was perfect in qualification. becoming the first non-host nation to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. And in October 2025, they beat Brazil for the first time in their history. After being 2-0 down, they came back to win. And the belief is no longer theoretical, it is real. And Japan's way is now built on measurable progress. And for now, the next milestone is clear: to reach the quarterfinals of the World Cup for the first time ever. Japan has been to the round of 16 4 times. In 2002, they lost to Turkey. 2010, they lost on penalties to Paraguay. In 2018, they lost to Belgium after being 2-0 up. And in 2022, they lost to penalties to Croatia. And breaking that barrier is not just a footballing achievement. It is proof that the plan is on schedule. So the 2026 World Cup is not the end goal. If Japan reaches the quarterfinal, the plan is on schedule. And if they go even further to the semifinals or the final, they are even more advanced. In 2005, Japan published Japan's Way, a 45-year plan to win the World Cup. And now in 2026, 21 years into a 45-year-long plan, Japan is in this World Cup to break the curse of the round of 16. They have a squad, they have the belief, and they have beat Germany, Spain, and Brazil. And they were the first non-host nation to qualify for this World Cup. So this is not just a tournament. This is a checkpoint, a milestone, one more measurable step on the road to 2050. And according to Japan's Way, they are right on schedule.